Our misconception is, since you can't see anything, there is nothing going through there. But we are here to prove that there is something going through it. Just because we can't see it doesn't mean that there's nothing there. So, electrons are negatively charged, and so are attracted to the positive end of a battery and are repelled by the negative end. So when the battery is hooked up to something, as you see here, that lets the electrons flow through it. They flow from the negative to the positive. Note, even though you can't see a current, the reason for this is that atoms are made up of electrons, protons, and neutrons. Since you cannot see an atom, you cannot see electrons, as they are the smallest particle of an atom. We can, of course, measure or gauge electrical current through an ammeter or a voltage meter. When you see lightning or static with your bare eyes, what you really are observing is heat energy that is resulted from the rapid release of electrons. So the answer is properly no, you cannot see the electricity or electrical current. Simply because you cannot see electrons, we are just starting to come out with scopes that can view very faintly the structure of atoms, but no further than that. Do electrons flow from the positive end of a battery to the negative end, or from the negative end to the positive end? Electrons are negatively charged, and so are attracted to the positive end of a battery, and repelled by the negative end. So when the battery is hooked up to something, that lets the electrons flow through it. They flow from the negative to the positive. You might wonder why the electrons don't just flow back through the battery until the charge changes enough to make the voltage zero. The reason is that an electron can't move from one side to another inside the battery without a chemical reaction occurring. In other words, inside the battery, plain electrons can't travel around because it takes too much energy to put a plain electron in solution. Electrons can only travel inside the battery via charged chemical ions, which can dissolve off the electrodes. The chemical reaction is what pushes the electrons inside toward the negative end, because the electrodes at two ends are made up of different materials which have different chemical stabilities. So overall, electrons flow around the circuit toward the negative end inside the battery, pushed by the chemical reaction, and toward the positive end inside the circuit, pushed by the electrical voltage. Electrical current can flow in other way in the battery too.
Shay, could you please report to the main office? Mrs. Shay to the main office.
If the battery is hooked up to something with a bigger voltage difference, a battery charger, for example.